Hey everyone, so here's another cute quick wrap for your double terminated crystals, your DT crystals. Let me just adjust my camera, there we go. I'm starting with a crystal, a fluorite crystal that is about 1/4 of an inch in diameter and just about 3/4 of an inch long. And I have a piece of 18 gauge round soft copper wire, and I have it at 18 inches. You could be using square wire also. And I'm just going to hold my crystal in the approximate middle of the wire. And I'm going to make a 90-degree bend. This is a pretty short crystal, so a lot of my wrapping might look like it's going to all be in the middle, but then I'll spread them out a little bit afterwards. It's a little bit hard to hold the crystal because it's small. You'll go 2 times around and come back to where you started, and the crystal might shift, and it's okay. So just like that. Oop, mine fell out. It's okay. Just put it back in there. And turn the wire to the other direction. Just there you go. And we'll just go in the opposite direction and continue 2 more wraps. So there goes 1 and 2. Come back here to the back where you started. So you have this little crossover. Doesn't look like much space, but we'll spread them out later on. So we're at the back of the crystal here. And I'm just going to take the wires and bring them horizontally in the middle of the crystal. Just kind of bend them to horizontal. You can do it with your fingers, or you can even get a plier to help you just get a little bend on them so that they're coming out horizontally. The crystal's still going to be a little bit wobbly and loose, and that's okay. We'll tighten it all up here in a second and make this one a little bit sharper. If you need to put a little tape, you can, but we'll start to lock it in here in a second. So this will be the bottom of my crystal, and I'll come maybe 3 millimeter off the point. Just hold everything steady and make a hairpin turn and turn it straight back up onto the crystal. Your wrap is going in this direction, so hold on to the bottom of the bend here, and we'll just continue. We'll curve the wire so that it's going in the same direction that the coil would normally be going in. You just want to make a little bend there, kind of shape it a little bit so it's got the bottom point, and then just hold everything. It's a little bit difficult to make this turn, but you can do it. And you'll bring a nice curve to the back. Just curve it down, get it kind of cute like that. Bring it to the back of this wire. And this is pretty thick wire, so you can use your plier to help you, but you want to basically do a 360 around this wire. Don't push, don't pull. Just get the turn all the way around the wire. When you get all the way around the wire, we're going to straighten it up. I'm going to keep going. So I've done a 1.5, it's a 360, but I want it to be on this side, so I'm going to bend this wire back up to meet the other one, just right here at the edge. Just take your plier and start an upward turn, and then squeeze them together just like that so that they're side by side. If that bottom point gets out of alignment, just push it back. That's pretty cute. So this part will kind of be your bail, and you can either weave it or you can leave it bare. In this case, we're going to weave these two wires together. Make sure there's just a tiny bit of space. And I'm going to get 3 feet of 28 gauge round weaving wire. It's very tiny wire, 28 gauge. Actually, let's go with 2 feet. I think 2 feet will do it. Let's get 2 feet of the 28 gauge tiny weaving wire. We'll just anchor ourselves right here in between these two wires and facing the front of my crystal. And I'm just going to do an overhand wrap. 360 the bottom, come up. 360 the upper wire. That leaves you in the back. And come all the way around the bottom wire. Come up and come all the way around the top wire. Leaves you in the back. Come all the way around the bottom wire. And keep weaving until you get about 1.5 inches. Well, about 1.5 inches. And then we'll start to bend it around the crystal. So keep weaving. Let me change my camera so you can see it a little better. There we go. So up and completely around the top one, all the way over and down and completely around the bottom one. And you just want to keep a tiny little gap between these wires. So as you weave, just work to keep them kind of together, but with the slightest gap. Okay? And every now and again, you'll just push the weave down and together like that. So go up, 360 the top, come down, okay, and just keep weaving until you get about 1.5 inches. I'm right about at 1 inch, so I'll just weave a little bit more. My 2 feet of 28 gauge is getting down to about the last 6 or so inches, and that's fine. I should have enough to make it to 2.5, to 1.5 inches. But if you think you needed to go a little farther and you're watching this ahead, you might give yourself 3 feet after all rather than 2 of the 28 gauge. If you need to go much further than I'm going, we can always add wire as well. Okay, so after I do some weaving, I'll just use my, got a little crossover wire there. Got a little bubble there, but that's okay. I fixed it. So after you weave a bit, you just want to take a flat plier and just delicately tap your weave, always pushing back to settle it. And I'm just going to go a few more wraps here to make my distance. My wire's getting real short, so I'll just go back and forth. Ooh, got a little crossover again right there. That's okay. Okay, so when you think you have enough wire, and again, we can always add wire, I want to flip over, make a bail, and come down along the opposite side of the crystal. And before I do, since I've been weaving on it, things might have shifted a little bit. So I'm just going to get things into order. Make sure I still got my nice curve and that my wire comes over the point right there. And I'll take, you can either take your round nose or you can use your finger. I'll just use my round nose. And I'll get about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch, whichever you prefer for the length of your bail, maybe somewhere in between. Just hold the plier there, bend the wires completely over on themselves. It's a little bit tricky to hold with the weave. You don't want to damage your weave, but you can take your plier, hold on to it, and just make gentle moves and curve the wire alongside the crystal. Like that. Could have been over to this side even a little bit more. We always have room to adjust. I wanted to be a little more slanted, so I just pushed it over, created more of a slant on the back as well. And now I guess I will add some weaving wire because I don't have quite enough, but I want to be able to curve back down. I'll curve my wires and show them to you, or show you the curve anyway, so you can see where you want to weave to. I'll just use my finger. You can either curve it and then weave it, or you can weave it and then curve it, whichever you prefer. But this is where we are going with this weave, is kind of down along the side of the crystal here, and we'll flip back up, you know, when we get back down here. So add more weaving wire and continue the distance to here. Alright, I've got another 2 feet of 28 gauge weaving wire, and I'm just going to insert it. So here's my ending wire. The next move would be to come down and do a 360 around the bottom wire. So I'm just going to position this wire to make that move. It's easier to weave if your wires are straight, but you can weave with them curved as well. And we'll just do that, and you just stay right in pattern. Hold it all together with these fragments until you get a little distance so the wire doesn't travel. And just keep weaving in your pattern. And if you don't want to weave on the curve, You can always straighten yourself back out. Just make small moves. Try to keep the spacing between the wires even. We could have marked that curve if we wanted to. So that we knew how far up to weave. Okay, and I'll just keep weaving for about another inch, which is what I think that curve was. Alright, so I've weaved for a bit more along my wire. And how far you weave, you know, depends on how far you want to flare this out as well. If you curve out further, then it takes more wire. Okay, that's about good. Just give everything a nice little tap. Make sure to settle all your wires. I added wire, weaving wire, so I'll get rid of the fragments in the back. I can do that just by making wide circles and breaking the wires off. I can get rid of this leading fragment right here as well from the neck. Okay. And then I have some weaving wire left in case I need to go more. So use your finger. Oh, while you're here, you can spread these out a little bit. Just be real gentle. Real gentle. Spread them along the belly a little bit. Okay, so here you'll just use your finger and start a nice curve on this weave. Keep the two wires side by side. Just work gently to bring the curve down. I might weave a little bit more. I think I like that curve, so I want to put a couple more stitches and get down to here. But when you get down here, you have some options. You know, we're probably going to flip back over, and we can go back up the other side a little bit. So I'll leave a few more stitches here. That's pretty good. Right about there, I'm going to turn the long wire from the outside that I have, the outside wire, out and back down. I'm going to use that short wire and wrap around that little neck. Just make sure that your curve is the way you love it. Bring this one around to horizontal, and then just, you can either cut it and pass it through there is the easiest way, but if you want to use this length for design, then you've got to take a bend and get through there. I'm just going to cut it right there and get a locking bend to make it easy on myself. It's about 1/4 inch that I've left over, and I'm not going to push, I'm not going to pull, I'm going to make sure my beautiful curve stays right there. And I'll just take that wire and work it into a nice bend, locking bend around that bottom stem. And you'll just be careful for your weave. Just make a nice closing bend. Line's a little bit long, so I'm going to trim it off a little bit. Just get a nice clean squeeze on it, just like that. And now you have this extra length down here. It's quite a bit. We could flip it back up and do a little bit more and come back up, which is what we'll do. But I also have a little bit of 28 gauge here, so I think I might just coil a little bit for fun, just for some texture. And I'm just going to use most of that wire and leave a little ½ inch right there. And I'll flip it up. So you can use your fingers right here so that you're not hard on the coil. Make a 90-degree bend. And push it so that it goes up the center of your coil, your crystal. Take a plier and hold that. Just make a nice elegant bend alongside that bare wire. And I really like how that looks. I wish I had enough coil to go all the way up. So I might just add a little bit. Ideally, I don't like to add coil when they're single coils like that, but I will here, so I'll get another foot. You might start out with an extra foot. Give yourself 3 feet on that last one instead of 2 again. So I got another foot of 28 gauge. You could attach right here if you felt like you needed to as well by wrapping around both of those little frame wires. I'm just going to attach to this outside wire, and I'll wrap a few times to get it on there, and then I will pass it through this inside frame wire right here. Make a couple of wraps right there to get it attached. This is the leading fragment here that I'll break off later, and that looks pretty good. Then I'll keep wrapping up along this single frame wire until I can get, up to here or behind it, whichever looks good when I get there. So I'll just hold it and keep wrapping along this single wire. Obviously, you could be weaving as you travel up here too, if you want to weave against both of these wires. But in my case, I'm just going to coil. So I'm going to coil until I'm going to lock it around this stem right here at the base of the bail, right where the weave ends. So I'm going to coil until I get to there. I took a few more wraps and decided I'm going to go ahead and attach again up here a little ways with 2 wraps around both of these frame wires, just so it looks nice, looks consistent. So 2 right here and then 2 right here. And it's additional support as well for that wire. So I'll wrap a few more. And it's your choice. There's enough length here. I could end it by wrapping around the center neck, which is what I'm going to do. You know, but you could flip it up along your bail one more time if you wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep this real simple and easy for us and beautiful. Not too complicated. So I'll wrap right until I get right up until the neck, right underneath the bail wires. So right about here. And that looks very pretty. Looks clean. And I'm going to do a 360 around the neck. If you want to preserve the length for design, then you have to take a long bend out here and push through. Or you can cut it short, you know, and just do a 360 wrap like we did the one on the bottom if you don't think you want any further design. So I'm just showing you how you would get through if you wanted to preserve the length. It's a little tricky. Push a little, pull a little like we normally do. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. And I'm leaving about a ½ inch there, enough to do a complete wrap around this bail neck. So I'll make sure that my nice curve stays there and I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling, not changing anything. I'm just going to curve this wire through the bail. I'll get my flat pliers to help me cinch it tight. Just get the wrap all the way around as clean as you can. I'm going to snip a little bit more off. Just get a nice closing wrap right there. And that's beautiful. Woo! So now let's go ahead and take these little fragments off. And that's it, you guys. Unless you want to add beads or more wire, we're done. So I'm just going to clean these fragments up. And you could do some cinching down here and there, scooching coils to make them all look nice together. Woo! That's beautiful. It's simple. Your crystal's locked in, and you can make this pretty quick, you know, 30 minutes or less. Now that you have the pattern, probably go a little faster. Alright, you guys, let's add our favorite chain and enjoy our beautiful DT crystals. I hope you make a lot of these. If you enjoyed this project, please give me a thumbs up and leave a comment, and certainly please remember to subscribe to my channel for more beautiful, fun crystal wraps and cabochon wraps like this one. Alright, much love. We'll see you for the next time.